Santiago, Chile blew our minds from its amazing mountain landscapes that surround the city. The fact that it's only 2 hours away from the beach, the flavors and varieties of food in their cuisine, how well developed the infrastructure is from the streets, the highways and walkways. And what won us over about this city is how active the people are. There are plenty of parks where you see people running, bicycling, and just enjoying the outdoors. We stayed here for over a month to get ourselves closer to Patagonia, and we did not anticipate how much we will come to love this city. Hola chiquillos, welcome to Santiago, Chile.
Yes, we spent an entire month in Santiago, Chile, and it was a practical decision. Our original plan was to go to Patagonia for a month and only spend like a week in Santiago to get to Patagonia. But after reviewing how spotty the internet was in Patagonia and the fact that we still work jobs and need good internet, we decided to flip it. And we spent an entire month in Santiago instead and took off a whole entire week in Patagonia to really explore it without having the work thing. And we were shocked, like pleasantly shocked.
Real quick, we're Whitney and Johnny, the life theory couple. We're inspiring others to explore life beyond borders by sharing practical travel tips and unique experiences.
So please travel those fingertips of yours over to the like and subscribe button to join the journey and join the fun. Time of year, we decided to go to Santiago, Chile during February, which is an excellent choice if you're coming from the North Hemisphere because, you know, the seasons are opposite in the Southern Hemisphere. So it was full on summer. It was very warm, very sunny. You can escape the winter blues. And it was just so enjoyable to have that amount of sunlight during the month of February, which is something we are not used to.
Yes. And it's their summer break, so a lot of people are on vacation, which meant that the city was not as crowded. It was very, very pleasant.
Location, we stayed in the province of Santiago,
in the neighborhood of like San Isidro, San Diego, on the edge of Barrio Italia.
This area was unique because it's where a lot of the high rises are, and it's an area that was highly impacted by a lot of riots that took place in 2019.
Because of the estallido social.
And so it looked a little more rough on the outside, like lots of graffiti that still hasn't been cleaned up. And so it kind of makes the city look a little more edgy and dirty. However, there were tons of people walking all times of day, women by themselves, people with their families, people with their dogs. And so it didn't feel unsafe. It just kind of looked a little rough.
We liked this location because we were really close to Barrio Italia, which it has a ton of restaurants. The architecture was more traditional, so a lot more low-rise buildings. There were a lot more green areas, parks, and the walkways were a lot more approachable. The next time we come back to Santiago, which it is a high probability that it will happen, we are going to choose to stay in Barrio Italia for all of those reasons.
Climate, weather, and geography. I'm a bit of a nerd of observing weather patterns, and I really liked Santiago. It does get quite warm in the months, of course, of January and February. Pretty hot into the 90s, but what surprised me the most is at night it actually cools off into the 70s and sometimes the 60s. So there's like cool breeze coming inside the apartment, so you can just open the windows, let it cool off naturally. And I did not expect that for a summer month. But I think because of the proximity close to the mountains, it just allows that type of wind pattern to bring in that cool air, and it made it a very pleasant experience to go get close to a sunburn or get a lot of sun absorption and then cool off at night.
I'm a little salty because Johnny loves Santiago, Chile. He has never come to love Bogota.
I like Bogota, but it's difficult for me to say that I love Bogota.
Then tell me why you love Santiago.
I love it because of the hiking culture there and the mountains. You can go hike a lot of these mountains without the potential of getting robbed. Like, it's super safe and it's super accessible. And that is always a highlight experience for me.
I can't say anything about it because I love that too.
The second thing that I really, really love is the infrastructure. Things are organized there. People stop for you at the crosswalks. It's like a thing there. They literally stop for you. They hit the brakes. We heard so many screeching of the tires multiple times. And that I was just like, oh, I can actually walk with ease and not feel like somebody's going to try to run me over, which is not true in most Latin American countries. Another reason I loved Santiago, Chile is because of the food. Even the restaurants that were just kind of like okay, cheap restaurants had something in their food that was super flavorful. And even the Chilean dishes are good. The dishes from other countries are good. So every place we went to just had flavor, and I loved that.
Also, the farmers markets that were set up throughout the city different days of the week. Because of our location, we were lucky to experience one on Fridays and one on Sundays, which gave us access to a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables at a really good price.
Yeah, we got a kilo of cherries, which I had no idea
It's
how
about
big
2
that
pounds.
was.
It's about
It was
2
like
pounds.
this many cherries for $1. Like one freaking dollar. I just couldn't believe it.
We also got olives for you, which you love.
A jar of olives for like $2 is this big, and I'm like, man, I would normally spend like anywhere from $5 to $8 for that many olives.
And what it was unique is that the things that were available at the market change weekly. So that gave us an opportunity to incorporate other things that we may not be eating or just add more variety to our diet.
A big plus for you English speakers out there is that a lot of people actually speak English in Santiago. And as we went around the city, we just noticed that there were plenty of people who just engage in English with you, and there was less like staring of you because we were like a gringo or
I
foreign.
didn't feel judged at all for being with my gringo husband and looking like this. Like not a single time.
Which happens in Colombia sometimes. Not all the
Not
time.
Other neighborhoods to consider when visiting Santiago are Ñuñoa, Las Condes, Barrio Italia, really anything that's like east of a city center. And the closer you get to the mountains, the nicer it is.
Yeah, you really start to notice the wealth in the type of housing you see. It really reminded me of the US and some of the very, very nice areas where the rich people live, basically. Safety. I did not realize how much I would value safety or do value safety in my life until living outside of the United States for like 2+ years.
And before traveling to Santiago, we got a lot of warnings from friends and acquaintances about the city being a little bit dangerous. We needed to be careful with our belongings and just watch out when walking in the streets.
And that was so weird to hear because when we were walking around, we were seeing people with their phones out. We were seeing families. We were seeing women by themselves. It felt incredibly safe. And I could not believe we were getting all these warnings. But that is because I think a lot of the activity that occurs, people getting robbed and things like that, happens at night.
Which we don't do. What do we do at night? We sleep.
We sleep. We go to bed at like 9 or 10 o'clock, and we are dead asleep. Our nightlife. By the way, somebody asked us to film nightlife in commented in one of our YouTube videos that we need to film nightlife. If we did that, that'd be us sleeping from 9 p.m. to about 5 a.m.
6 a.m.
6 a.m.
Cost of living.
Stay tuned because we are going to do an entire video on how much we spent in Santiago, Chile in an entire month. I know off the top of my head, we roughly spent about $1,000 on our accommodation. we spent another $1,000 on just food that includes groceries and eating out. We did go to some nicer places while we were in Santiago. And then activities was pretty affordable, like I think less than $300 because most of the things that we were doing were free.
Or very
I
affordable.
think we spent more on Ubers to get to some of these locations than maybe the access of those locations.
If you have more budget specific questions, leave them in the comments so we can answer them in that video.
Let's get into the negative, the odd, and just the weird that goes on in Santiago, Chile. The first one is negative, and that is air quality. It is a very smoggy city. You can actually see the smog when you're flying into Santiago. And if you ever get into a location where you can see the city from a distance, the smog is just so noticeable. So I don't know what it would be like to live there in the long run and the impact of like your health because of the air quality.
This one's weird, but at a bar, I asked for water. And the waiter told me to go to the bathroom sink and refill my water bottle there. And I was just shook. But what's hilarious is that later in our stay, I saw multiple people
In public restrooms,
filling up their water bottles
I saw
from the faucets.
I saw a couple people come out of the stall in the bathroom, and they go to the sink and start like throwing water in their face because it was hot outside, but they didn't like put soap or anything. And then they drank some of the water and then they washed their hands. And I saw that multiple times, and I'm like, what is going on in this city?
So the water is clean and is safe to drink. Big plus. But don't get it from the bathroom sink.
This one is odd, but I find that every country has some sort of dessert that is just so culturally specific to that region that people just swear by it. They love it. And for Chile in general, that is mote con huesillos. And I was like, it's like a peach tea drink with the actual peaches, like kind of dehydrated or cooked for a long time. No, cooked. And then it has like these whole wheat grain things at the bottom, and people just love this. And if you talk to Chileans, they're like, oh yeah, my grandmother made this, and we would take us like an entire week to get through the whole batch that she would make. And people just have these positive experiences about it. They love it. They sell it everywhere. And Whitney and I,
We tried it.
we tried it, we got rid of it, and we will never try it again. And I was like, this is just like root beer floats in the United States. People who come from other countries to the US and try a root beer float, which is vanilla ice cream with root beer soda, and put it together, and it like fizzes up because of the chemical reaction. Like, it's something I grew up with. I love. Whitney hates those. A lot of my friends who are from other countries, they're like, that is nasty. I don't know
That's
how you eat that."
disgusting.
Right? And there are plenty of other desserts in Colombia, because you followers of this channel, we were in Colombia for 2 years. There are desserts that I just cannot stand in Colombia. I never order them. I never get them. I hate them. I think they're disgusting. So
But we love them.
I don't know about that, but it was just odd. It's an odd thing to experience, but you gotta have it. You gotta try and decide, do I like it or not. For us, we didn't like mote con huesillos, and I know that's really offensive to some people, but whatever. I'm gonna say it for the record. I just think it's weird.
This one's a negative, the friendliness of the people. Specifically Santiago, let's say that, let's make that statement. It was weird because entering buildings, elevators, we would say hello, good morning, goodbye. Silence.
There'd be silence, or they'd be like, hola, hola.
Yeah. Some people would be shocked that we said good morning. Like, why are you talking to me? And in general, they were not very friendly. Like, they were not very approachable.
Yeah, they weren't receptive to like strangers saying hello or hi, which is something you find in Colombia a lot, which we were very accustomed to. So it was just really odd to go from Colombia and directly to Santiago and experience that type of culture. But we learned that is Santiago specific, and that if you get outside of the city like we did, people are a lot more like, oh, hello, how's it going?
Yeah,
Basically.
very different in Patagonia, very different in a smaller town called Curicó, which is 3 hours south of Santiago. Very friendly people. We only experience this in Santiago, Chile.
This one is a negative for us, but it may not be for other people. However, they serve way too much bread. Like almost every meal, they're serving you bread right at the beginning of it. And that's like a huge negative. And we're very, very big and adamant on our health. And we believe that eating bread is one bad. And if you were to eat any bread, you should eat it as one of the last things in your meal. You should start with your greens and then your protein and then move on to your healthy carbs. And then bread should be last.
Keeping in mind your glucose levels.
Yeah.
But when you're given bread all the time as the first step of your meal,
Glucose spike.
this one was unexpected. But at grocery stores, you must bag, weigh, and
Put the sticker on.
for every single fruit or veggie that you get.
We forgot multiple times to do that, and so I'd have to run and go like put it in the bag and then weigh it and get the little sticker and put it on the bag, which is we are not accustomed to. This happens in Chile, this happens in Argentina, this happens in Uruguay. These are the only countries I've ever had to do this, but most places they usually weigh it at the cash
Because
register.
they have a weight,
Yeah.
but the grocery stores in Chile do not have a weight, so they do not have a way for you, like to help you. So you have to do it yourself.
This city is not very green, especially coming from Colombia, one of the greenest and wettest countries in the entire world. And then going to Santiago is like, man, where are the trees at? But you got to look at the geography of this place. I mean, it's right in the transition zone. You go more further south in Chile, and it's going to start to get more green. You go north, it's going to turn into a full-on desert. So Santiago is kind of right in the middle. The green areas were in the rich areas where they had a ton of irrigation going on, is what we noticed. But without the irrigation, it was just dry. And very, very, very dusty. So it was just odd to experience that, especially in contrast with Colombia.
The sentiment of the people for their city. We got the opportunity to speak to quite a few young people, and we always ask them, what do you think about Santiago? And the general answer was, I don't like living here. I don't like my city.
Yeah, I think that's because the riots that happened in 2019. So the freshness of the situation that had occurred so recently is still present in people's minds, and so they kind of have this experience of like the city isn't what it used to be, and that's what a lot of people have told us.
Yeah.
But I mean, me as an observer for the first time going to Santiago, and again, like we're telling you in this video, we went there with no expectations. I'm like, this city is great. People should be incredibly proud of what they have to offer, and people should come and visit. It is beautiful. I love the city. I think it's amazing.
I think one response that was ingrained to me was someone said that there is no sense of community in like the neighborhoods, or like everything is like so spread apart that it's really hard to build a community. But I also feel like it's like the sentiment of the people from like all of this political turmoil that they have had to experience, that is difficult for them to create a community.
Here's another that is a negative for us, probably not a negative for other people, but that's because
The city is awake at night.
we are morning people. We like to wake up early. Things do not open early. People would tell us, oh, you got to get to this hike really early at 8 o'clock. And in my mind, when somebody tells me really early, my mind automatically goes
Like
at
4 a.m.,
Yeah,
5
4,
a.m.
5 a.m., 6 a.m. And they're like 8 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, that is just like, what are you saying? But we noticed a lot of places just they open at 8 or they open later. So as morning people, it was kind of challenging to be in Santiago because it's just like I like to knock out errands in the morning because I'm morning people.
Or if we wanted to go to eat at a restaurant for breakfast, they would open at 9:30 a.m. Like, I want to eat breakfast at 8 a.m., not at 9:30. That's too late.
Enough of the negatives. Let's talk about the activities and experiences you can have in Santiago, Chile.
One of the most popular, Cerro San Cristobal, where you can literally go do running, hiking, bicycling. You can take the cable car to the top of the cerro and just take the more touristy route.
They also have at the park a observatory, which I think everybody should go check out at some point in time, and you get to learn about how significant that observatory was for the history of astronomical science. But the park is huge. It's massive. You can spend your whole day there. We spent 6 hours there just the first day. That was like one of the first activities we did, and we were like, man, there's so much to do there.
Another super touristy attraction, but for good reason, is the Costanera Center and their lookout at the top of the tower.
We went there for sunset, so we got to watch the city transform from, being awake during the daytime and then all the city lights turning on. So that was really fun to watch. It can get quite crowded up there, but it's one of those tourist things where you're like, you got to pay the $17 it was.
$18,
yeah. $17-18 it was, and go see it and get that panoramic view of all the mountains that surround Santiago.
However, I do recommend that if you can try to go in the morning when there is less smog, try to do that. So, you can get a more clear view of the mountains.
Yeah, and you never know when the clouds are going to roll in.
Yeah,
you just never know. We were lucky. We didn't really have any clouds. It was obviously hazy and kind of smoggy. But again, we already mentioned that smog is a thing in Santiago, Chile. So expect to see that, but the views are still amazing.
The Baha'i Temple, which is a very unique experience because there are only 7 other temples in the world for the Baha'i religion.
Yes, it is located on the eastern side of the city in the mountains. There is public transportation that can take you there. We took an Uber. Ubers do know how to get up there, and there's a bit of a hill to go up. Very peaceful, very tranquil. They don't let you talk, and it's like a quiet zone outside of the temple and inside the temple itself. You can't record inside, so that's because it's like a consistent place of worship and meditation in the Baha'i religion.
And no one tries to convert you, which is a plus.
Yeah, you're not going to walk away believing in something that you don't believe in.
There are so many areas to explore with food courts, food gardens, food, everything related plazas. They were in Barrio Italia, Ñuñoa, in downtown area towards the city center, just everywhere. It was very unexpected. We would just take walks and then boom, like a food market.
Yeah, for example, when we went to Ñuñoa, we didn't expect there to be such a variety of different restaurants and stuff, but there was, and we were like, this is great. It just shocked us constantly. Every place we went, I was like, man, I think I really, really like Santiago, Chile, and by the end of it, I was like, I love this place. I really do.
We know, Johnny. Hiking.
Our favorite thing.
Yes, we only did el Cerro Carbón, Cerro Manquehue. We went to the Parque Aguas de San Ramon and hiked the Salto de Apoquindo trail. So we only did those because, and I say only because we wanted to do a lot more. They were kind of strenuous, so we ended up pretty tired, and also we had the time constrained with having to work and everything. But there are a myriad more of hikes, and what's great is how much information there are about these trails on Facebook groups, on websites for the parques, so Parque Cordillera, Parque Aguas de San Ramon. They have their websites and they have very clear information about the trails and the schedules, the cost of the hikes, and that makes it so much easier to plan for and to experience. So it was spectacular.
Yeah, the hiking culture there is A+. What's also great about Santiago, if you're not really a mountain person, you can just go to the beach. It's literally 2 hours away. We took a bus and got there in 2 hours, and we went to Valparaíso, Viña del Mar, and also Cancun. We stayed in Cancun and we got to really experience the mesh of those like three cities that are really well interconnected. Spend some time on the beach, watch the surfers surf, and just enjoyed a cold ocean. It's a cold ocean
The
there.
water is really cold, but it's great for your immune system. It
Very
will
good.
have it pumping blood all over your body.
And I loved that there was a huge sand dune there, and we watched the sunset on top of the sand dune, and it was just, it was beautiful and a great place to relax. And it just made me go back. Santiago is awesome. Like, you want to go see the beach on the weekend? It's just right there. It's right there.
Cámate.
There are a lot of other things to do in Santiago, such as sightseeing the entire city.
Yeah, including, Plaza de Armas, the History Museum, Cerro Santa Lucia, Barrio Las Tarria, and a bunch of the museums that you can find in the area. Also the parks, Parque Balmaceda, the Parque de las Esculturas. It's a bunch of activities that are very, very popular for people that go visit Santiago for 3 or 4 days.
But keep in mind, we were there for an entire month. And so, of course, we did those things and we did all these other things. And I think all these other things is what really surprised us about the city, that I'm like, it's more than just these common tourist locations that you can go visit, which are nice and very enjoyable in themselves. But I was just taken aback by the fact of everything else.
The fact that there is so much more to do than just those activities and so much more to explore. I'm pretty sure that we are missing areas, we are missing hikes, we are missing hidden spots that only the locals know about.
Yeah, they're not telling us. What's up with that? So that's a wrap for the Santiago City review.
Let us know in the comments if you think we missed anything.
But until next time, peace out.